Good morning or good afternoon or whichever it may be for you right now, beautiful people. And so welcome back to chapter 12 of Daniel. So this is day 3 and the focus is Daniel 12:9. And basically what Daniel 12:9 is, it really talks about the appointed time. And the appointed time is really about fulfillment. Really getting in line with God's plan. That's really what the appointed time is. So when I think about the appointed time, I think we have a lot of issues with the appointed time simply because to be honest with you, I think it's really because we lack patience. And look, I am the first one to get in that line. I am not going to even try to front. I do not like being patient. When I want something, like most people, to be honest with you, I kind of want it right now. I don't want it later on or when, I guess God decides to give it to me. Seriously, I really do want it right now. And I guess that's most of us if we can really be honest with it. And the reason why we're not patient is because patience means that we have to actually wait for something. It's not when we want it, it's when in God's timing, of course. So when we're waiting, it's like you have to wait. You may pray some more. Wait. Pray some more. Wait. Pray some more. And it's like, oh my gosh. And then unfortunately, we try to take matters into our own hand, which we know is not a good idea. But we do it because we want it when we want it. And actually the patience and the waiting, I have found out is really about God trying to build our faith, trying to build us up to be faith walkers, because we are supposed to walk by faith and not by sight. And if I get everything right now, I'm not going to be prepared to walk by faith and not by sight. So we all know that God knows what he's doing, but sometimes it seems like on a daily basis, it's almost like we forget that God knows what it is that he's doing. And he does. And so, do you realize something that I had to realize? God has a plan for my life, and he has a plan for your life. Before the foundations of this earth was laid, God had a plan for my life and for your life. And we come along thinking that we know better than God does sometimes. Unfortunately, we do act like it. And I just think that, well, first of all, let me say God is a person of his word. We know he's a promise keeper. When we look up and see the rainbow, we should be reminded God is a promise keeper. He doesn't ever go back on his promises. In his word, we can stand on his promises. So he is a promise keeper. So we know that when we pray, a lot of times, God is trying to get us. We think prayer is about, okay, I'm supposed to pray and I get what I want. I don't really think it works that way. I think that actually God is trying to get me to a point of revelation. If I keep praying, God will reveal things to me. If I really take the time to connect to God, he will reveal things to me in prayer. He will give me the revelation that I need in prayer. But sometimes we don't want to wait because that takes a little time. That's not like just, okay, right now I want it right now. Okay, I got it. Thank you, God. Thanks for being my genie, God. I can just rub you anytime I want to. Get what I want. That doesn't sound like that's a God. God is not our genie, remember. So anyway, we have a tendency to do that. But I think what happens, honestly, I don't think prayer is so much about God as it is about us. And I think this idea that we can change God's mind. Now, before you shoot me, I'm going to say something. I don't really think we change God's mind in prayer, honestly. I think that sometimes we get in line with God's will and with what he was going to do anyway. And we had an idea because we're so self-centered and we are sometimes very presumptuous and vain. So we think, well, I just changed God's mind. I prayed so much, I changed God's mind. No, what you probably did was got in line with what God was going to do anyway, you probably got in line with his will, even though you may not have known that, but you might have just gotten in line with his will. Or God might have just, sometimes we have God's perfect will and his permissive will. He might have just allowed something, I don't know, like the woman who kept, bothering the judge or whatever. I don't know which one it is, but I don't think we really change God's mind because the word is solid. God is the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. He'll be. And it doesn't, God changes not. The word says that constantly. So if you really think about that, just think about the fact that God had a plan. And so the appointed time, the reason why we wait is because there's a fulfillment of that plan that has to happen. Maybe before I can go to point B, God is saying, well, first point A has to be fulfilled. And sometimes I think I forget that. I know I do. We forget that God has a plan and that, okay, let's let God do it the way it's supposed to be doing so that we can really get the real fulfillment of what we're needing and what we want. Because if we jump ahead of things, that's when we kind of mess things up and we don't really get the plan of God in our life is never really realized, and we spend our life trying to figure out, why does it seem like something is wrong? I don't have the joy I should have. I don't have things are being fulfilled the way I think they should because we want to do things our way. God already has the plan set up for me. He already has the plan set up for you. Why is it that we choose to deviate from God's plan because it's not when we want it? Well, if he doesn't do it, I'm like, just like Sarah, I'm going to go out and I'm going to make sure that I have me a baby. Well, we know all about Ishmael and everything that happened as a result of Sarah telling her husband to lay with another woman. It was not a pretty thing. Usually in our life, it may not be exactly like that, but it's not a pretty thing when we try to take matters in our own hand instead of waiting for God in prayer and allowing God's plan to be realized. Because once that plan is realized, I'm going to be a better person. I'm going to have grown. I'm going to have more revelation. And then I'm going to be prepared for the next step. But we try to put out, we try to put the horse before the cart. That's not the way it goes. We need to let God do him, and we need to be prepared to do us. The word of God said, pray without ceasing. It's not because God needs my prayer because I'm just so great. Actually, I need to pray. Prayer is a very important thing to people of God because I learn in prayer, I grow in prayer, things are revealed to me in prayer, and most importantly, I connect with God in prayer. So he's ever talking to my spirit man. And this is important for us as people of God. And so I just want to remind you today what prayer is really about fulfillment, but it's God's fulfillment of his plan, not of my own plan. And I know people will argue me down. No. Just keep reading the word. Just keep reading the word. I don't know so much as we change his mind, but I think what we do is get in line with God's will sometimes. That's why prayers are answered. I remember praying probably a few years, and I'm not a big microwave, user, but that microwave stopped working, and I just didn't like the fact that it didn't work. Had a few people come over. They couldn't fix this microwave. I mean, I could have just gotten another one, but like I said, it wasn't. I think I was at a hard time in my life with not a lot of money, and I was strapping for food right then, and this microwave would not work, and I kind of sometimes would use it every once in a while. At that time, at first I wouldn't even use microwaves, but anyway, at that time I started where I would use it a little, and it was 3 years, and finally God decides, out of the blue, I prayed, and all of a sudden, miraculously, I turned the microwave on and it works. I was so mad. I was like, are you serious? All this time I prayed and people look at it, it didn't work, and all of a sudden God just decided now the microwave is going to work. But maybe something had to be fulfilled in my life. I don't know. But I think what I realized from that was the fact that God could have had that microwave to work 3 years ago or any time in between. But for some reason he didn't. I think I needed to grow and learn and trust in God and realize who was really in control. And stop trying to push my will onto God. Stop trying to make God do things your way. Because I'm going to pray a whole lot now just when I want something. Like back to that. He's my genie. He's my genie. He is not your genie. And he is not my genie. And it's not about me, it's about God's fulfillment in my life. If I really want to see God's purpose worked out in my life, then I need to think about that appointed time. I need to think about what God is trying to fulfill in my life, and I need to stop trying to push God to do what I want. And I need to begin to trust God for his will, trust God for his way, and know that he always has my best interest in mind. So if I could just get in line with His will, that's really what prayer is about, getting in line, aligning with God. And sometimes we might align with God and not even know it. So our prayers get answered quickly and we think it's us. You know, saints, I realize how self-centered I am. And I realize how vain sometimes I am when it comes to God. I didn't even realize it. But I know it now. I understand now. It's like, man, I was just it's all about me. Well, what about God's will for me? I'm always talking, I know I was bought and paid for with the price, and I know I am not my own because God owns me. I'll see all that. But then when it really comes down to it, it's like, I don't act like I'm bought and paid for with the price. I don't act like God has my whole life in His hand. And like I'm supposed to just surrender everything to Him. I don't always act like that. So I'm trying to get to a point where I can act like I surrender everything to God and not just say it, but really in my life, I'm surrendering everything to Him. Just giving it to Him, knowing that when He's ready, He will fulfill the promise. When He's ready, He will fulfill the things in my life. The appointed time is when God says it is, and most importantly, when things have been fulfilled. In other words, everything that needs to be fulfilled will get fulfilled before God is going to allow me to walk in something. Because if I try to walk in it before, I'm not going to be able to even take advantage of what God has blessed me with. Because I didn't allow Him to fulfill things first. I didn't allow Him to prepare me first and get me ready for what He was trying to have me to walk in. Saints, let God prepare you for what it is He's trying to get you to walk in. That's what I'm telling myself, not just you. Please, saints, it's so important for us to respect God's appointed time. And that means let the fulfillment happen first. And then let God go ahead with the plan that He has for your life and for my life. I know it's so much better when I've just waited on God and it's like, man, I wish I do this all the time. But I'm getting there slowly but surely. I hope you are too. And I hope you have enjoyed this, and I hope you will let God just reign in your life and let it be about your prayers be about Him and what He's wanting to do in your life instead of about what you want and Him being your genie. So I hope you have an amazing day. Hope you have an amazing week. And don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoyed this. And I hope you have an amazing week. God bless you and God be with you and your family. Have a great evening.